I was always the good girl. I smiled when told, obeyed rules, never talked back. My mother praised me publicly but controlled me in ways no one else could see. She said I was her angel, her blessing, but I felt like her possession, not child. Every decision I made, she approved, first, even clothes, friends, what book I read. When I did well in school, she took credit. When I failed, I embarrassed her. My father? He was quiet, distant. He loved me, I think, but Mom spoke for both. If your father were home more, maybe he'd notice how ungrateful you've become. So I tried harder. I studied more, smiled bigger, stayed quiet when it hurt. I didn't know I was being trained, not loved. Groomed to please, not be free. It took me 23 years to realize that love shouldn't feel like debt. The moment things began to change was small, so small it felt harmless, forgettable. It started with a dinner. My mother asked me to cancel plans with my boyfriend. We haven't had family dinner in weeks. What's more important than your own family? She said it with a smile, sweet voice, but it wasn't a request. It was a test. And like always, I almost said yes. I almost caved, out of habit and guilt. But something in me paused. I remembered the last dinner, her mocking my haircut. How she laughed when I shared my writing. How I left feeling smaller, ashamed. So I said, no, I've made plans. I'll come by another night. The silence was deafening. Her smile dropped. Her eyes narrowed like I'd betrayed her. You've changed, she said coldly. Don't forget who raised you to be who you are. That night, everything shifted. She called me twice. Left voicemails full of guilt trips. I just wanted one night together, she said. You can't give me that? I didn't answer. I felt shaky, wrong, like I'd broken a sacred contract. And in a way, I had. Because saying no once meant I could do it again. The next week, she showed up at my apartment uninvited. Said she missed me, then looked around my place like it was too small, too messy, too not hers. Is this where you live now? I thought you had better taste than this. I said nothing. My boyfriend, Jason, offered her coffee. She declined, insulted him subtly. She stayed exactly 18 minutes. Left without a hug. You're slipping away, she muttered. Jason asked afterward, is it always like that? I nodded. He looked both sad and angry. My friends never truly understood. They said, moms are just like that. She means well. But they didn't see the way she stared, calculated, punished in smiles and soft jabs. They didn't grow up fearing the slam of a cupboard more than a raised voice. Or hearing, you'll never survive without me, wrapped in a just joking tone. By 24, I started therapy. The therapist asked, what do you want, not her? And I couldn't answer. I had no idea. My wants were always shaped around hers. So we started unraveling. Slowly, carefully, years of guilt, obedience, and emotional debt. I learned how I'd been trained to say, yes, not out of love, but fear. I started noticing her patterns, the manipulation, the subtle gaslighting. I wrote it all down, night after night, trying to make sense of who I was. Then came the breaking point. She asked me to move home, just for a while. She said she missed me. Said Dad wasn't doing well. You'll help me help him. Jason warned me. This is another trap. Don't give her your space again. But I still felt the pull. The hope maybe this time she'd be different. I said I'd think about it. She took that as yes. Started making plans immediately. Texted, I cleared out your old room. I'm so excited. Like I was returning from war. I told her gently, I'm not moving back. I'm staying here. My life is here now. She didn't reply. Not that day. Not the next. Then came the silence, her favorite weapon. And when silence didn't work, the guilt came. I just wanted my daughter back. I didn't respond. I didn't cave. But inside, I was unraveling one layer at a time. After I refused to move back home, my mother acted like I had declared war. She stopped calling. No more texts. Not even her usual passive-aggressive emojis. At first, I felt free. Like I could finally breathe without asking permission to exist. Jason noticed it too. He said, "You're smiling more. Even when nothing's funny." But the silence didn't last long, because my mother always had a backup plan ready. A week later, my cousin Michelle texted me, "Your mom said you're going through something?" I froze. Going through something? I texted back, unsure whether to scream or laugh. She said you've become distant, depressed. That she's really worried about you. That was her playbook. If she couldn't control me directly, she'd rewrite the story entirely. Suddenly, I wasn't independent. I was unstable. Selfish. Lost. The family's concern. Michelle meant well, I think. But her words stung. Maybe just go visit her? No one understood how much that visit would cost me. How much I'd lose again. One dinner would become a weekend. One favor would become a dozen obligations. And every no would bring back that same quiet rage behind my mother's smile. Still, guilt crept in. I began questioning myself. Was I being too cold? Too unforgiving? I started rereading old journal entries, trying to remind myself why I left. There it was in my own handwriting. She told me I owe her my life. She said if I ever left her, she'd fall apart and it would be my fault. Those words brought me back. That wasn't love. That was emotional blackmail dressed as parenting. I didn't owe her my peace just because she gave birth to me. The next surprise came through my dad. He called, something he rarely did without her prompting. His voice was soft, almost tired. "Your mother's been crying," he said. "She misses you." I asked, "And what about you, Dad? Do you miss me?" The line went quiet. "I do," he said. "But I also understand." That sentence caught me off guard. It was the first time in my life he didn't defend her, didn't try to fix it. He told me he had started therapy himself after watching her spiral post my departure. "She's grieving control, not your absence," he added. That line stuck with me for days. It made sense. My leaving wasn't abandonment, it was rebellion. And she couldn't tolerate rebellion. When we're children, love and obedience get twisted into the same language. But they're not. Love says, "Be free." Control says, "Be mine." She never learned the difference. Meanwhile, Jason stood by me. Patient, present, always asking how he could support. I started telling him more, things I'd never spoken aloud. Like my mother's silent punishments. How she once ignored me for 3 full days after I wore the wrong shoes. Or how she made me return a birthday gift I'd bought for myself. Because it wasn't thoughtful enough and made her look bad in front of others. He listened. Really listened. And didn't try to solve it, just sat with the hurt. It made me realize how rare that was. How unfamiliar true emotional safety felt to me. I asked him, "Is this what normal looks like?" He said, "No. This is what love looks like." 2 months passed. Then, just as I was settling into the strange new peace, she reappeared. She sent a long email. Not a message, an email. 3 paragraphs of half apologies and guilt. "I know I wasn't perfect," she wrote. "But everything I did was to protect you." She listed sacrifices, the jobs she took, the sleep she lost, the friends she abandoned. "I gave you everything. All I asked for was your loyalty." That word again, loyalty. Not joy. Not happiness. Not even love. Just loyalty. Her version of it, anyway. And then the line that broke me, "If you can't come back to the family, then stay gone." It was meant to sting, and it did. But it also freed something deep inside me, because finally, she said it out loud, what I had always known but never dared believe. Her love had always been conditional. Say yes, and I'm worthy. Say no, and I'm dead to her. I didn't reply. Not because I didn't care, but because I finally did about myself. I went for a long walk. No music. No phone. Just me and the sound of my steps. The sun was setting. I felt like a chapter had closed, even if it ended painfully. When I got home, Jason hugged me without asking. She'll try again, he said. I know, I replied. But next time, I'll be ready. Weeks passed. No messages. No calls. Her silence became a wall I didn't know I needed. I didn't realize how heavy she'd been on my life until the weight finally lifted. Everything felt louder now, birds in the morning, my own thoughts, Jason's laughter in the kitchen. I started sleeping better, dreaming again. Not about her, but about me, my future. Then one afternoon, an envelope arrived. No return address, just my name, written in blue ink. Inside was a photograph. Me at 12, smiling at my school's science fair. On the back she had written, "You used to shine. I don't know where you went." No signature. No letter. Just guilt, packaged neatly in nostalgia and one-sided sadness. Jason found me holding it, frozen. "You okay?" he asked. I nodded, though I wasn't. Because no matter how far I'd come, she still knew how to slip under my skin. Therapy helped. Every week I unpacked another layer, another childhood moment that never felt right. Like how she celebrated my wins in public, but shamed me privately for not being perfect. Or how every "I'm proud of you" came with a hidden, "but you could have done better." She used love like currency, rewarded when I obeyed, withheld when I didn't comply. Once, I got sick the night before finals. She blamed me for being irresponsible. She said, "Real adults don't get sick when it matters." I was 17. I believed her. That was her power, convincing me that my needs were inconveniences, my pain exaggerated. My therapist called it emotional conditioning. I called it normal, until I saw it wasn't. I started journaling daily. Not for healing her memory, but to reclaim my own. Each entry felt like a rebellion. Each word, a breath I wasn't allowed before. Then came another twist. Dad reached out again. This time, to meet for coffee, just us. I agreed, curious but cautious. We sat across from each other in a quiet cafe. He looked older than I remembered. More tired, but less trapped somehow. Less controlled. "She doesn't know I'm here," he admitted. She'd be furious. I sipped my coffee, silent. "I wish I had protected you more," he said. "I see it now. All of it." That sentence broke me more than any fight ever could. Because it was real. He admitted what I thought no one else saw. That it wasn't all in my head. "She needed you to orbit her," he said. "But you were meant to fly." He apologized, not just for his silence, but for standing by while I drowned quietly. I didn't know how to stand up to her. I was afraid. Still am. I asked him something that had haunted me since childhood. "Why didn't you ever stop her?" He looked down, shame all over his face. Because she made me feel small too. I realized then, control wasn't just her way with me, it was her whole language. She controlled him. The house. This story. We all lived inside her version of truth. But I was finally rewriting mine. And maybe, just maybe, he was starting to write his. Before we left, he said, "I'm proud of you." For saying no. My throat tightened. I nodded, whispered, "Thank you." It wasn't perfect, but it was honest. That meant everything. Later that week, Mom sent a group message to the whole extended family. About me. She wrote that I had abandoned the family, that I was unwell, ungrateful, misguided. She painted herself the victim. Said she'd done everything for me and now look. Cousins messaged again. "Are you okay? Your mom's devastated. Maybe reach out?" I didn't respond. Not this time. I wasn't going to explain my sanity to spectators. I sent one message to the group. "There's more to the story than she'll ever admit." Then I left the chat. Blocked the noise. And finally, felt like an adult. Jason held me that night. "You don't owe anyone a version of yourself that hurts you." He was right. I didn't owe them my silence. I didn't owe her my surrender. I was allowed to choose myself, even if it meant disappointing those who built their lives around me. I realized I wasn't just healing, I was becoming. And becoming isn't always quiet or clean. Sometimes it's messy. Sometimes it burns bridges. But sometimes, That's the only way to light a path. Months passed. Seasons changed. And so did I. In ways that felt small but were huge. I stopped apologizing for setting boundaries. I stopped flinching when the phone rang unexpectedly. I started laughing more. Loudly. Without scanning the room to see if it was too much. There was still grief, though. Not for her, but for the childhood I never really had. The one where I could mess up without fear, cry without being called dramatic, breathe freely. I mourned that version of life, one I saw in movies, read in books, envied in friends. But I also started creating something new. Something just mine. It felt like planting roots. Real ones. Not the kind that wrap around you like ropes, but the kind that grow under you. I joined a writing class. Took up painting. Learned to sit with stillness, not escape it. I even found joy in boredom, proof that peace didn't always need to be earned or explained. One afternoon, I received a letter from my aunt, Mom's sister. Unexpected. Her handwriting shook. She wrote, "Your mother won't say it, but she's not the same since you left." I held my breath. Was this another guilt trip, another disguised summons back into the storm? But then she added, "I've seen the way she controlled you." I'm sorry I stayed quiet. That line. I didn't know how much I needed it until I read it again. I'm sorry I stayed quiet. It was validation, finally, from someone inside the family walls. She didn't try to fix anything. Didn't ask me to return. Just witness the truth. And sometimes that's more powerful than forgiveness, being seen without needing to be understood first. I wrote her back. A short note. Thank you. That meant more than you know. I didn't need reconciliation. Just recognition. And for once, that was enough. Jason and I got engaged in the spring. It was quiet, just us and the sky. No cameras. No performances. No pressure to invite people who didn't know me anymore. When I told Dad, he asked if he could come. Just him. No surprises. I said yes. And when he hugged me, he whispered, "You're building what we never had." That blessing meant everything. Not because I needed his approval, but because he gave it freely. He was changing too. Softly, slowly. Like ice melting after decades of frost. I saw in him what I saw in myself, a person learning to live unafraid. My mother didn't reach out. Not for the engagement. Not for the wedding invite. Nothing. And I didn't chase her. Not because I didn't care, but because I finally cared about me. Silence, this time, wasn't war. It was acceptance. I stopped waiting for a version of her that didn't exist. Some people change. Some people just get louder in their denial. She chose the latter. And I chose peace. I chose joy without explanation. I chose mornings without dread. I chose to stop being the perfect daughter in a story I never agreed to star in. Being perfect never saved me. But being honest did. Being brave did. Saying no did. A year later, I stood in front of a classroom, reading an essay I had written. It was about daughters who become women by breaking cycles, not by repeating them. The room was quiet. Then someone clapped. Then another. Then the whole room followed. Not because the words were perfect, but because the truth finally had a voice. And that voice was mine.